so I'm watching Star Wars with my son the other day, and I would use this analogy like, okay, when you're in a Wisconsin game, it's like you're the pilot of that little sad rebel ship that the opening of Star Wars, Darth Vader's Star Destroyer is closing on that ship, right? That's what the Wisconsin game feels like. Okay, but if it's the Ohio State game or the Nebraska game, then you're Luke Skywalker making the trench run, right, in the Death Star. Everything's going to go right. Don't worry about it. Use the Force, Luke. You'll be all right. Call whatever you want. So you learn what those things feel like. But I think the most important thing is once you get to the end of that and you have those learning experiences, you just kind of learn that some of those things are out of your control. And what you need to focus on is doing what you can do as well as you.
What do you know now that maybe you didn't know a year ago?
Well, I don't know where you want to start with that. You're going to have to help me out and be a little bit more. I know what it feels like to call playing a game. Didn't know that a year ago. I know what it's like to go through an installation in spring ball in training camp. As the guy tasked with putting all that together, I didn't know what that was like necessarily a year ago. So just things like that. And no, you asked me a hard question. You'd have to catch me after a few beers or something like that. Get like a real profound answer. Now, Brandon Smith, that's easy. He's an X receiver. So he's going to be singled a lot of the time. What Brandon needs to do is keep developing, because I don't know that he's demonstrated he is a playmaker yet. So if we can get him to become one, boy, that'd be terrific. It's not hard to move him around. Some of the other guys, a little bit harder to find.
What do you need to see from him then to label him as that?
Yeah, I'd like to see him do something in a game. That would be terrific. So we're not going to find out till September 1st, but he's made progress, and we're excited about that. But until you do it in a game, it's kind of like I was pretty smart until I called a play in a game, right? And then I did it. And I don't know if I was so smart anymore or not, but at least I was a proven commodity one way or the other.
Do you prefer coaching tight ends to running backs, or
it's more comfortable for me? It's more of a comfort zone. I've done it before. It's kind of how I cut my teeth, and certainly it's a little bit more central position within the whole group, so it's a little bit more comfortable for me. But coaching running backs was fun. It was a challenge. It was new as far as teaching in a room like that with some of those players. It's a totally different perspective, and every day, you're on your toes. You're dealing with a little bit more as far as checking up on guys and staying on top of guys. You're dealing with some more wild cards, which is fine. That's good. But this is definitely more in my comfort zone. I think all good offenses, and I don't know that we are one, but all good offenses, when we've had success here, I would marry it to anybody else in the country that's having success at any level. Probably run the football pretty well. Have the ability to control the tempo of the game through the running game. Do a nice job of converting on third down or in the red area in those critical situations. Again, I'm not sure it really matters how you do those things. For us, I heard a high school coach speak, very intelligent guy this offseason, and one of his first comments was, whatever your philosophy is, it ought to marry your knowledge base. And that seems like kind of a ridiculous statement, but I think you'd be surprised how many places you go or how many games you watch, high school, college, pro, where people are trying to do things that they don't really understand, because there's a lot of football. There's a lot of football I'm fascinated by, but I don't really understand it. I couldn't teach it. I think at the end of the day, the reason that we've had some success from a sustained perspective here is when things go wrong, which they inevitably will, you have to be able to get under the hood and fix it. If you don't understand what you're dealing with, I think you're going to have a hard time. If my car broke down, I would call somebody to fix it right away because I don't know how to do this. There's a lot of things I'm fascinated by. One of my favorite styles of play to watch is that Hal Mumme and Mike Leach air raid system. I love watching those guys. I'm thoroughly enthralled by how they do things. In fact, I would argue there's a lot of parallels between what they do and what we do. Totally different philosophies, okay? But those guys run about 6 plays. However, they have 11 guys on the field that understand conceptually what is going on every snap, and they can make adjustments within those things. They can get under the hood and fix it. I'm thoroughly entertained by those guys. When you talk about RPOs, the run-pass option, that's been around as long as football's been around, and there's a million different variations of that. Would I love to do some of that? Would we love to do some of that? Yeah, probably. But now you're talking about time on task and getting things done. When you're talking about an RPO, we RPO, boy, I'd say probably 50% of our run game involves an RPO. The difference between us and the Philadelphia Eagles, we're doing it pre-snap because that's just how we're going to operate. We're going to play under center. If we want to do a post-snap, now all of a sudden we're in the gun and there's an exchange involved.
Right.
If you post-snap read something, there's an exchange involved. That's not as simple as just putting somebody in the gun and saying, hey, we're going to read this guy post-snap. That's a lot of work. That's individual time. That's team time. It's like no huddle. I think no huddle is a fascinating thing. But unless you're going to live in that world, unless you're going to commit to that and be in that full time, it's probably not a road you want to go down. And so, you try to incorporate some of those things into what you're doing the best you can. But there's always constraints within what you really can get done and how you can best maximize what you do without just getting too exotic. There's nothing worse than being a little too cute.
Is that